These are two women caught in a gilded web, but neither are the spider who spun it. In folklore, sirens, like many female mythical creatures, were seen as the masters of manipulation, often luring sailors to their deaths at sea. But the reality is that men have been women's predators for centuries. So why are so many mythical creatures like sirens villainized and demonized in folklore and literature? Well, Netflix have answered this question perfectly in their new hit show Sirens. So let's discuss today why women are so often demonized while the real villains lurk in the shadows. From the very first episode, we see the women of this show painted as the bad guys. Michaela, wife to billionaire Peter, is seen as inauthentic, rude to her staff, and challenging to work for. Simone, her assistant, is hated by the staff for carrying out Michaela's orders, and her sister Devon appears as a complete wreck, angry, self-destructive, and with 2 DUIs under her belt. So these are our villains of the show, surely? Well, not quite. From the outset, Sirens powerfully suggests a cult dynamic. We're introduced to silent staff, strict regulations, and unusual practices, all overseen by Julianne Moore's Michaela, an enigmatic and almost hypnotically influential leader. Megan Faye's Devon embodies the audience's skepticism and serves as the vigilant voice for pointing out every warning sign. But are her red flags correct? Or is she too playing into the idea of internalized misogyny, women being taught to hate other women? Because the reality is that this cult isn't simply a one-woman show run by Michaela. It's a much bigger operation, one perhaps started unintentionally, because it bloomed from Michaela struggling to cope in the environment she landed in after marrying her billionaire husband. This is where the psychological depth truly emerges. It would have been easy to create a show that just villainized women as the train wreck, the home wrecker, the cult leader. But Sirens masterfully uncovers a more insidious, modern iteration of a cult, one that thrives on systematic and monetary power, social influence, and the calculated exploitation of human vulnerability, all under the wing of patriarchal ideas. In fact, we learn that when Michaela married Peter, she signed a prenup that stated that if she did not have a child with Peter, she would have no financial protections if he left her. Her fellow attorney is baffled by this. Why did you sign this? Because she said, I was being love-bombed by a billionaire. As her heartbreaking story unravels, we see a more vulnerable side to Michaela. She's humanized. Michaela suffered multiple miscarriages and now lives with the constant fear in the back of her mind that her husband will leave her just as he left his first wife. So the cult has in many ways developed as a means of her coping to appear a productive, useful, attractive partner to Peter. Peter, though on the surface appears to be a clam chowder making chill guy, under the surface he is a man with all the power and control. Power over his wife, power over his staff, and power over the people they socialize with. As an exceptionally wealthy white man in America, he holds all the cards. Yes, Michaela may appear to have control in their small cult-like group, but looking at the wider sphere, it's Peter who is truly in control. But equally, why are so many intelligent women wrapped up in this cult? Simone initially appears to have it all together. The perfect job and wardrobe, best friends with her boss, and blissfully happy. But as the story unfolds, we quickly realise that their relationship is based on love bombing and codependence. Why would a woman as educated and intelligent as Simone fall into this dynamic? Simple, the reason that any of us could, because of unprocessed complex trauma. Simone was left with horrific unprocessed trauma because of the abuse that her father put her through. Simone, understandably at her core, fears being abandoned again in the way that her father unspeakably abandoned her as a child at home. And even more so, she fears having to return to the space of this trauma with her father. Unprocessed trauma makes us incredibly vulnerable to manipulation and coercion. Simone yearns for a family, a sense of belonging, and Michaela gave her this wrapped up in a bow. Simone just didn't realise that the bow had terms and conditions written on it. She gave Simone live-in security, financial comfort, and a curated identity. This isn't brainwashing with elaborate rituals. It's love bombing and creating dependency. Michaela showers Simone with attention, opportunities, and a sense of being seen and special. For someone with a history of abuse and neglect, this is incredibly powerful. And in many ways, we actually see that Michaela sees Simone as the daughter she never had. She wants to keep Simone, and because Simone's vulnerability is pre-existing, Michaela can seemingly provide the perfect solution to all of her troubles. These are two women caught in a gilded web, but neither are the spider who spun it. These are two women trying to cope with the harm caused to them by men. And this is where Sirens truly shines in its psychological critique. This show cleverly peels back the layers to reveal that the monster isn't a cult leader, or a beautiful young woman ready to steal a husband, or the train wreck struggling to hold her life together, but something far more pervasive. Misogyny, class power, and the systemic ways that wealth, privilege, and patriarchy can warp human relationships. P.S. If you're enjoying this video, please go and hit the like button. It makes a massive difference to my growing channel and helps other people find this video. Peter Kell, Michaela's husband, who's only been painted as a chill, pot-smoking, clam chowder-eating guy, is revealed as the true puppeteer. He is the one who controls the money, the contracts, and ultimately he also controls the fates of the women around him. Michaela, who originally seems so powerful, we learn is simply a product of this misogynistic system. She's trying to survive in a world created by men for men. It's easy to blame women in a patriarchal world, to turn them into the mythical creatures, the witches, the sirens, to blame them for the downfall of men. But what we see in Sirens is that the men around these women are creating their trauma, from Peter Kell all the way through to Simone and Devon's father. The ending is heartbreaking, but realistic. Simone is the new Mrs. Peter Kell. Under the threat of losing everything and having to return to her father's cage, she instead chooses a different path. But it's still a cage, simply a gilded one. With Peter, she will still experience coercion and manipulation, at the very minimum, but these seem understandably preferable to her over the abuse, neglect, and poverty that she would return to with her father. The reality is that Simone can't win, so like Michaela, she just has to try and survive in a world designed by men for men. Sirens reminds us that while women continue to be villainized in literature and folklore, and in modern day pop culture, the real monsters often lurk unseen in the shadows, protected by privilege, power, and patriarchy.